Hey guys, how's it going? So, today is going to be something a little bit different. You might be watching this on YouTube, but you also might be listening to this on the podcast because I think I'm going to put this up on the Scots Bass Lessons podcast as well because it's just cool info and I just wanted to share it with you guys. Essentially, and by the way, I'm going to be talking about a performance that I did with a band that I've had a lot of comments on. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The performance that I'm talking about is actually included in this episode, okay? So if you're watching this on YouTube, it's going to be at the end of the video, but also if you're listening to it, if you're listening to it on the podcast, so on iTunes and the other podcasting platforms, the recording of this will be included in this episode as well. Okay, so just in case you want to listen to what I'm talking about when I start talking about the performance, it is included in this video or the podcast, whichever platform you're listening to or watching it on. Okay, so about a week ago, maybe a little over a week ago, I was recording a blues course for the academy over at Scots Bass Lessons, right? And at the end of the day, we had around 15 minutes, 20 minutes before we had to get out of the studio and the next band were coming in. So we had all the cameras there because obviously we were recording a course for the academy. And I said to the guys, Dave and Nick, the drummer and the guitar player, I said, hey, we should record a jam while we're here. You know, it just makes sense. We'll do a blues, we'll jam around a blues, some sort of like open-y type thing, do a lot of improvising and just see what happens over a blues. And the guys can film it because they're already here. It makes no sense not to do that. So we did that. And the video I posted up in two places. I posted it up on YouTube, so it is on YouTube if you just want to check it out as a single thing on its own. But remember, it is at the end of this as well. It's going to be at the end of this video and the podcast as well. So I posted it up on YouTube, but I also posted it up on Facebook. I uploaded the video directly to Facebook. Now, within 5 days, that video had over 100,000 views. I actually think right now it's on something like 130,000 views on Facebook, which is obviously a lot of eyeballs on a performance, right? And which is fantastic, amazing, and thank you. If you watched that performance, just, thanks. There were so many great comments. And what it did, the performances, by the way, I'm rocking the coffee. What this performance did is it got a lot of attention because of the playing, but also there was a lot of attention asking about this bass. Okay, and just to put it in real terms, generally we get about 150 emails a day at Scots Bass Lessons. Don't worry, I don't have to deal with them all. Laura, the customer service manager, she deals with all the emails. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to create cool content for you guys, right? But generally, we get 150 emails a day. Since the release of that video, we've been getting like an extra around 100 emails a day asking about the gear that I recorded the video with, the video that I'm talking about, that performance video, asking specifically about this bass, about the amp I used, about, what strings are on this bass, the full thing. And I found it really, really interesting because I think around 2 people asked how I was approaching improvising and creating bass lines on that specific performance piece. And this really got me thinking, because obviously I, just like you guys, have had that gear acquisition syndrome, right? We see somebody playing an instrument and we just gravitate to it. We're like, wow, what a great instrument. I really want that. That bass will give me the sound I'm looking for. Okay, that bass will give me the sound I'm looking for. And that's why so many people were asking about this P bass. Now, which is a Nate Mendel signature, by the way, by Fender. It's just a Mexican bass. It's, I think, about $1,000. I don't know. Like, I went into a bass store to buy a cable, and I was waiting for the guy to get the cable, playing on this while I was waiting for him to get it. I thought, yeah, it sounds quite nice, man. And I just thought, I really want a P bass with round rounds on it. These have got round rounds on it, or this has got round rounds on it. And so I got the bass. So I went for a cable and got the bass. It wasn't, it's a good bass. It's good. The lacquer on the neck is a bit, but it's good for the price. It's like $1,000, and it's good for the price. But what a lot of people were asking is about the strings, about the bridge. Has it got a different pickup in it? This full thing, okay? And when you think about it, all those questions in versus, how was I actually approaching improvising and the approach of the bass lines, and what was I thinking when I was playing? It really got me thinking, and just kind of reminded me how easy it is not to focus on the stuff that actually matters. Okay, I'm just going to say that again. It's so easy to focus on the stuff that doesn't actually matter. I could have played a whole load of other basses that day and it would have been fine. It would have been fine. It would have sounded great. I have the tone. A lot of it has got to do with you, the way you play, and me, the way I play. I always remember a time I was getting a lesson from a great bass player over in New York. He's a guy called Skuli Sverrisson, and he's a fantastic bass player, Icelandic guy. And I'd been listening to him playing for years. I had a great Alan Holdsworth album. The track was called Low Level High Stakes. You should check it out. Alan Holdsworth, Low Levels High Stakes. It's got a fantastic bass solo on it. And it's on YouTube, so you can check it out on there. And I'd been listening to that album for, my entire life. Well, not my entire life, but it felt like it. I used to listen to it like every day for years. I'm not even joking. Every day for years I listened to that one track. And it was, the tone was amazing, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, so I'm at Scully's place. I'm at his flat in New York. Gets to the end of the lesson and he says, is there anything else, you want me to do, want me to help you with? I was like, oh man, can I have a go on that bass? That's the bass. I picked up that bass, I plugged it in, and I was just expecting that sound I'd been listening to. And you know what? It didn't sound anything like the record. It just sounded like me on a different bass. And that's when the penny dropped, that so much of the tone, guys, comes from you, from your physiology, from the practice and the hours that you've put into the instrument. So when you get this gear acquisition syndrome, try and, bang it down, get rid of it, because where the tone is actually coming from is you and the hours that you spend with your instrument and learning your instrument. So it's so easy to be fooled and think that, the key is in the instrument when it truly isn't. And just talking about the prices of basses as well, something else that came up with a lot of the emails that came in about the performance that you're about to hear at the end of this video or the end of this podcast. A lot of guys asked, well, Scott, you've got a custom shop P bass, right? So I'm just gonna. Now, I might get some serious luthier hate for saying what I'm about to say. Okay, so just bear with me. If you're a luthier, I do apologise. Okay. So yeah, I've got this one as well. This is a Fender Precision custom shop. I think these are about $2,500, maybe $3,000 or something like that, right? They're super expensive, and a lot of the emails were asking, Scott, you've got a custom shop P bass. Why didn't you use that? Why did you use your you used your Mexican one. Why did you use that? So here's the gag, guys. Right, above a certain price bracket, it is very hard to tell the difference between, just because it's an expensive, what I'm trying to say is just because it's an expensive bass doesn't mean it's going to sound better. Just because it's an expensive bass doesn't mean it's going to sound better. This custom shop doesn't sound any better than this Mexican. It doesn't sound it sounds different. It sounds different, right? But it doesn't sound any better. When above a certain price bracket, now I'm saying above a certain price bracket, I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but above a certain price bracket, you're going to get more care being put into the instrument, right? The setup will be nicer. The fret ends will be, I should be looking at this one. The fret ends will be really nice and smooth. I'm not saying that no work goes into basses above a certain price bracket, because they do. There's some absolute phenomenal custom basses out there. There really is. And as a lot of you guys know, I play overwater basses. They make absolutely amazing basses. The care that they put into those basses is fantastic. And guys like, Ken Smith and Fedora and, all these custom makers, they sweat over their basses. They're hand sanding them. It's the full thing. But just because they're super expensive doesn't mean that they're going to sound any better. Above a certain price point, you're paying for the care that's gone into them. You're paying for the handmadeness. I know that's a bad term. The handmadeness of it. That's what you're paying for. You're not paying for a better sound. I have played $6,000 to $10,000 basses that are bad. I know that sounds bizarre, me saying that. I've played lots of basses in that $6,000 to $10,000 mark that are really fantastic. But I've also played basses in that price bracket that are bad. And I wouldn't want, because, and it's not because they haven't put, the work into those custom basses. They have put the work, but, basses are made of wood. They're made of wood. It's it's a bizarre material. It's not the same every time. Sometimes you might get a bass and it just might not work. And that doesn't matter what price it is. Sometimes you'll get a super expensive bass, and for some unknown reason, it just doesn't work. And equally, with a cheaper bass like this, the same thing. You might get a great one that really sounds fantastic, and you might get another one that doesn't sound so great. Basses are not identical. They're made out of wood, so it's a natural material. It's something that can't be, we can't get it. We can't guess that it's going to be exactly the same every time, which is why, some 70s jazz basses, for instance, are horrible, and some of them are amazing. It's just an extension of that. Now, I say above a certain price bracket because what really matters on a bass to me is I really want stable machine heads, so it's going to stay in tune, okay? I really want stable machine heads. I want a nice bridge, so I can adjust the intonation. I know that nothing bad's going to happen. No, like Allen bolts are going to come flying out or anything like that. I like a nice break angle over the bridge. What else do I like? So I really like nice pickups. This one's got Seymour Duncan quarter pounders in it. The Custom Shop has got Fender Custom Shop pickups in it. These are nice pickups. So I said above a certain price bracket, because when you get above a certain price bracket, it's kind of, it's always you're going to get great pickups. You're going to get great machine heads. You're going to get a decent nut on the bass. And I would say electronics as well. Even like when it's passive, above a certain price bracket, you're going to get a nice jack socket. It's not going to fall to bits on you, or hopefully not when you plug it in after 50 gigs. It's going to be solid. The wiring's going to be good. There's going to be good shielding in the actual inside, so you're not going to get any crazy buzzes or anything like that. So that's what I wanted to share on this video, guys. Is I just wanted to say that don't focus on the wrong thing, okay? And don't think that if you buy a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 bass, it's going to make you play any better or give you a better sound, because there is serious diminishing returns after a certain price bracket. I know that a lot of you might be thinking, well, what's the price bracket, Scott? What price bracket? To be honest with you, I'm not sure. I think, this is just completely off the top of my head, okay? So maybe sort of above that sort of, above that, I don't really want to say anything, but above that kind of sort of $800-900 mark. There is basses that are cheaper, obviously, that are fantastic. I know Ibanez makes some great basses that are cheaper. I know a lot of noise is being made about the Sire basses, the Marcus Miller basses right now. There's some people saying some great things about those as well. So I just wanted to put that out there, guys, and share that with you, because if you're anything like me, and I'm saying anything like me because I get hoodwinked by this as well. I see a great bass player, I'm like, wow, I like that bass he's playing. Maybe if I got that bass, I'd sound like him. I'd have that in my playing. But it's so easy, guys, to be railroaded off the track and be given this ideology that if we buy a super expensive instrument, it's going to be great for our playing. Now, as a caveat, I also want to say that buying new instruments, expensive instruments or cheap instruments, can be really inspirational for you. I can remember when I was a kid, there was nothing more inspirational than getting a new bass, and I'd sit there and I'd play it for weeks so in a way, it's worth it just for the inspiration you get when you buy a new bass. But yeah, so that's what I wanted to share with you today, guys. And I wanted to share that because after the performance I posted on Facebook that you're about to hear, there were so many questions about what strings I was using. I don't know what strings are on this. The strings that came on it, right? They're new. I think they're steel. They're nice. They're not too light. I don't like the strings to be too light. It sounds good. That's all I'm bothered about. But after all the emails we received, after I posted that video, I felt like I had a duty to say, guys, seriously, you need to be emailing me and asking me about, how I'm approaching creating bass lines, how I'm approaching improvisation, how am I getting that tone on that P bass? Is there any specific techniques I'm using? Or plucking hand techniques, things like that. That's what makes the difference, okay? That's what makes the difference. And again, I don't want to offend any luthiers of high-class instruments because, my heart goes out to you. I absolutely love what you do. I'm a huge fan of super sexy custom-made basses because I really value the time and the effort that goes into creating them. And it's not just this, machine gun, one bass out, another bass out, another bass out, going out the door. It's, those luthiers, they spend time with them and they sand them and then they finish them and then the setup, the setup can take hours on a really great bass, making sure it's perfect. And there is value in that. There's great value in that. And knowing, I think with the really expensive basses, you're also paying for the heritage of that company as well, what you get and where it comes from. It's like a Ferrari or a Porsche, that's part of that purchase. It's the heritage of the company and where that bass came from and the love and the care that went into making it. But again, guys, don't get hoodwinked and think that buying a super expensive bass is going to give you this amazing bass tone because, well, you get what I'm trying to say. Anyway, guys, I'll leave it there. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for doing what you do and tuning in every week and checking out my videos and checking out the podcast. The podcast is going great at the minute. The podcast is going seriously great. I can't even believe how great it's going. If you haven't checked out the podcast, go to iTunes, check it out, or go to scottsbasslessons.com and you will see podcast in the top navigation. You'll see the first episode was Ricky Minor, the second one was Nick West, the third one was Hadrian Farrow, and then we've got the fourth one coming up. If it's not out yet, hopefully it's not out yet. It might be already out yet, but it's with Chris Cheney. Okay, Chris Cheney from Jane's Addiction. How cool is he, right? He's played on a bazillion film soundtracks and everything else in between. So. And Alanis Morissette, Jagged Little Pill, one of my favourite albums. So check that out. Anyway, here's the performance I was talking about, where just me and two other guys just jamming around the blues, having fun. Try not, it's a P bass. What you're hearing is a P bass tone. You're not hearing like, yeah, this is a good bass. It's a good bass. I like it. But you don't have to have one of these basses to make it sound like that. Okay, you don't have to have one of these basses to make it sound like what you're about to hear. It's just a P bass tone. To get super specific, just so you know, the volume was right up. The tone I've got backed off a little bit. So just, I would say maybe a third backed off a little bit on this. And I went direct into a DMP what's the word? A DI. what's it called? BAE DMP 1079, I think it is. DI box, and that just went straight into the desk. So there was no amp or anything like that. It was just, I was using an amp in the room to actually hear myself, but that wasn't mic'd or anything like that. As far as bass sound, it was just direct into the desk. And that was it. So if you do like what you hear in this, maybe check out a P-bass style instrument, because they're really nice. I really love them. I think you can get super fat sounds on them. Again, you don't need to get a bass this particular model or anything like that. It's the simplest thing in the world. It's just a P-bass pickup. It's totally passive. It's got a volume and a tone. But what I would say about this bass that I do like is that the neck is a bit slimmer than a normal P-bass and a bit fatter than a jazz bass. So it's somewhere in between a P-bass and a jazz bass neck. And that's it really. So hopefully you got something from this video, and I will see you next time. Check out this video of or recording if you listen to it on iTunes of the jam that we did the other day, and hopefully you'll like it. Take it easy guys, and I'll see you in the shed.
Gliding.
Do some gliding. Are you recording? Sorry.